Hello everyone and welcome to Fig Fanatic. My name is Jesse and today we are doing Fig and a Feature. The first ever Fig and a Feature for Fig Fanatic. And this week we are doing The Shadow. And we will be unboxing this original 1994 Shadow figure for all to see. We'll be looking at this fig, get a look at him up there. How awesome is that? I actually had this figure. I had many of these figures when I was a kid. All kinds of them different. You know, I had the fucking ambush one. I had the Alec Baldwin one where he could, change. I had the badass taxi. Yeah, a lot of cool shit. Can't wait to open it. Also, in addition, we will be discussing the movie and reviewing the Shadow feature film of 1994. And it was a blockbuster of a movie. It had Alec Baldwin, Penelope Ann Miller. We had Peter Boyle of Everybody Loves Raymond fame and Frankenstein. Tim Curry. We also had Sir Ian McKellen of Lord of the Rings, X-Men fame, among many other hits. So, let's get started and let's talk about The Shadow. This Shadow, released in 1994, it was intended to be a massive blockbuster superhero franchise. And Russell McKay, who was also the director of Highlander 1 and 2, among a bunch of other flops, not until later of course, but at the time he was still somewhat reputable, was going to be making this movie to launch the career of Alec Baldwin. Well, he was already kind of relevant, but this was supposed to be, MCU before MCU. This was supposed to be a major superhero movie. Piggybacking off of course, other darker narrative movies of comic books such as RoboCop, Dick Tracy. They later did Phantom, which also was stinker beyond all belief. But this movie feature film also had a big cast, as I just discussed, a lot of different people, had a great soundtrack as well. But it was, suffice to say, it was a major flop. It was such a flop, in fact, the toys were notable for going on clearance just as soon as the movie came out, and the completed Super Nintendo video game was actually canceled, even though it was done. They literally had it ready to go, and then they just didn't release it because they figured it'd be cheaper just to take the L on it instead of just, putting it out the Blockbuster and other stores. So, anyways, big time flop. But was it really that bad? We're going to kind of go over the movie, quick little synopsis here to sort of familiarize you with The Shadow. The film's main story takes place in the 1930s, where the film actually starts is a little after World War I, where our main character, Lamont Cranston, is a Chinese drug lord of some kind. They don't really explain how, they don't explain why, where he got the money, why he's a vicious killer, any of this stuff. He's just there. The movie opens up and we are introduced to Alec Baldwin, who plays him, and awful wig and all. And I'm talking horrifically bad wig. He is an Asian drug lord, and after a night of whatever it is that Asian drug lords do, or Caucasian Asian drug lords do, he is awakened by a calling, a mysterious voice. He arises out of bed from a bed of naked women. Yes, naked women. I'm not kidding. Watch the movie. And goes out and follows the voice. He then appears before this Shaolin monk guy, ancient one, I don't know, generic stereotypes of Asian cultures. And he basically tells him that he possesses the shadow and can see what lies underneath evil men's hearts. After explaining this, he forces Alec Baldwin to fight off against a knife. Yes, a knife. Not kidding, it's a knife. It's not cool, scary, anything. He fights a fucking knife. Anyways, continuation here. After fighting the knife, we're then shown a written exposition that basically explains that Alec Baldwin was trained for 7 years, and now he has abilities that can fog people through sheer concentration, leaving visible the only thing he can never hide: his shadow. He then travels to what is described as his homeland in, I quote, that most wretched lair of villainy that we know was New York City. Not kidding. Which is a kind of a lie. I don't know. I mean, New York City's kind of fucked up. Anyways, just kidding. All my New York homies, I love you. New York's great. It is kind of a fucked up place, though. So we fast forward 7 years, and we then see the Shadow rescue this Asian man. This is a complete coincidence, but let's just use the Asian guy from the mob. I don't know if he owed him money. I wasn't really quite listening, but he owed him money or something, and they had his feet all tied up in cement, and they were gonna throw him off the bridge. Well, he saves them by just laughing. That's all he does. He just torments mobsters by laughing, and then does shadow punches, and then the other two just run away. So he kills this guy, and then he has the Asian guy come with him, and this introduces his taxi. Now, the taxi is awesome. The taxi's badass 1930s style taxi, except this thing is way cool. I say this because I own the toy, okay? The toy was badass. It had these weird little, like, spiky things that came out, had a big cannon in the front of it. I think it might have had a sunroof. You could put your toy in there, you could drive the taxi, even though they never actually gave you Peter Boyle in the taxi. He didn't come with it or anything, and it wasn't a toy, so he would have to drive his own taxi, which was, I don't know, kind of weird. He never actually drives. I don't think he drives any car. As far as we know, the Shadow can't drive. So, anyways, he explains to the man that he now works for him. He is an agent of the Shadow. And so, anytime he needs him, or summons him, whether it's him or anyone else, he will say the phrase, "The sun is shining." And then you will respond with, "But the ice is slippery." That is exactly what they say. Don't get it, but great, awesome. By this point in the movie, you'll either be really annoyed to hell with Alec Baldwin's his cheesy, dramatic voice, or you'll be pretty entertained by it because it's cheesy. I mean, it's fitting in the sense that it fits the mood of the Shadow. Shadow's kind of a ridiculous hero to begin with because it's such an old concept. But either way, it is funny. It's just, it's not meant to be funny, but it kind of is. It's kind of tongue-in-cheek, so to speak. But it is bad, don't get me wrong. And Alec Baldwin's voice is so iconic now, especially if you're a fan of things like 30 Rock, that you can't, like, unhear his voice, you know? So when you hear it, you think of it like a funny kind of way, not serious Shadow, I'm gonna fucking kill you kind of way. Now, in fairness, it is based on a serial radio drama from, like, forever ago, like the 40s or 50s. So, understandably, it's not really going to be the most compellingly serious thing you've ever seen in your life. Or realistic, for that matter. So anyways, we're then subjected to some Kenny G romance music. Some kind of saxophone theme. It's extremely corny. It's probably the worst track in the whole movie soundtrack, which actually is kind of bumping, if you ask me. It's really good music, like for a musical score. This one, but that's more because the 90s was filled with that kind of crap. So he meets this woman. He pursues this mysterious woman. And her name is Margot Lane. I'm not quite sure if Lois Lane was the inspiration on that name, because I thought that was kind of weird they did that. Anyways, Margot Lane is this beautiful blonde woman that he meets. He then macks on her and convinces her, possibly with shadow powers and Jedi mind tricks, to dip out to a Chinese restaurant where he discovers that she is a telepath. Now, albeit unknowingly. She is not quite aware that she's a telepath, but kind of is. Stupid. Apparently that has nothing to do with the Shadow origin stories of, like the original story. They just threw that in the movie for, I don't know why. So, because she's a telepath and she could potentially figure out who he is through his thoughts, he decides not to pursue her, even though he kind of digs her and he wants to bang her. So, I mean, this is called spade a spade. He wants to have sex with her. He moves on. Meanwhile, some history guys discover this ancient tomb, Genghis Khan's tomb. It's the original tomb for him. And for some reason, after they leave, it opens up and a cop's standing there, and this guy comes out, and he Jedi mind tricks him, Mongolian magic tricks him, and he makes him shoot himself. So, he's dead, and life goes on. So, in the next scene, we are blessed with an appearance by the amazing, the talented, the iconic Tim Curry. If there is a cult movie out there, it probably has him in it. He pursues Margot Lane in a very creepy kind of way, only that Tim Curry could do and pull off well. And she, of course, denies him because he's being fucking Tim Curry level creepy, because he's fucking creepy in like every movie he's in. I mean, do you see the way he looked at Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone 2? I'm not so sure the real reason why he was trying to get in that hotel room was to get his dad to pay the bill or whatever, or prove, anyways, that his dad wasn't actually there. I think he knew he was alone. I think Tim Curry in that movie was a freaking creep that was trying to get... Okay, let's just stop. Let's just stop. You know where I'm going with this. Anyways. Okay. Let's continue on. Margot then goes to her scientist father, played by none other than Sir Ian McKellen, and basically tries to convince him that she has psychic powers. Long story short, he doesn't because science. I have to get this out now. I respect Ian McKellen. He is a legend. Lord of the Rings, his role as Gandalf is iconic. No one will ever replace him. His performances as Magneto were wonderful. He did an awesome job of that. But he's god-awful in this movie. I don't know if it's because he like tries to do an American accent or what. It's kind of like Sean Bean in Silent Hill. It's fucking terrible. His accent is so bad in this. I couldn't tell if he was being a bad actor, if it's a bad accent, or if he was being a bad actor with a bad accent. It's all bad. Anyways, let's move on. The next scene we're shown the mysterious man who came out of the crypt, the Mongolian wizard. And he gets into a cab, or not even gets into it. That's the funny part. He's just in a cab. He's just driving in the cab. They don't show a scene where he's, hailing a cab, which would have been fucking great comedy. He's just in it. Kind of makes you wonder, how did he know to hail the cab? Anyways. The cab driver, by the way, is played by Larry Hankin, who is of Friends fame. He was the annoyed neighbor, if you're a Friends fan, that they were always pissing off in the first few seasons or whatever that was. He was also Carl from Billy Madison. So, hey, Carl! Good to see you. So, sorry, Billy Madison fan here. So, he's in this. He plays a ton of bit roles. He's been doing this for, 6 decades or more, I think. I mean, he's been in Hollywood forever. Anyways, he doesn't like the Mongolian guy because he's rude, and he basically is just, he's being New York. He's being a New Yorker. And by being a New Yorker, kind of being an asshole. And that's how they roll. They're honest people. And so the Mongolian guy doesn't like him, so he kills him by Jedi mind tricks, Mongolian magic tricks. Makes him drive into a fuel tanker for some reason, and he's dead. So that happens, and then very, very randomly, I was watching the movie, and I couldn't even really follow what happened. I had to rewind it, and I was like, he just sort of like walks downstairs to Alec Baldwin's home. The mysterious Mongol warrior man, magician person, reveals himself to be Genghis Khan's long-distant relative. So he is the last descendant of Genghis Khan. Shiwan Khan is his name. And he is also a mind tricker of sorts, and was trained, in fact, by this same ancient one stereotype Chinese master guy that Alec Baldwin was as well. He offers Alec Baldwin a chance to rule by his side and take over the world. Of course, Alec Baldwin declines on this. They share a classy drink of whiskey, and he pays him for the drink. Totally not kidding. He pays him for the drink. He flips him a coin or something. So he has this coin or whatever, and he has some suspicions about this coin that it means something. So he gets in his taxi and he drives downtown, or he doesn't drive because of course the Shadow doesn't know how to drive. Peter Boyle drives him down. So he goes down to visit a guy from earlier in the movie, and basically that he saved from the mobsters or whatever that was. So basically he comes over, the sun is shining. Oh, but the ice is slippery. So boom, we now know, dap it, we're homies, bro. So he comes in, gives him the coin. Somehow he just happens to be a professor that can analyze coins. So he basically figures out there's some kind of chemical in the coin that's really rare that no one's ever really seen before. And I guess it can somehow fuel an atomic bomb. There were parts of this movie that were just kind of like lackluster, and this was one of them. So I wasn't really following. I was just like, yeah. Anyways, the movie then cuts to Ian McKellen working on this machine thing like he was earlier when Margot, his daughter, was talking to him about being a telepath and that he's colorblind or whatever. So he's working on this thing, and basically he gets mind controlled. So now, apparently, this thing is a bomb, or it could be a bomb, or an atomic bomb, or something, and the Chinese Mongoloid guy, Shiwan Khan, is now mind controlling him. So, anywho, let's move on. Alec Baldwin is then having a classy little drink of whiskey with the police chief / his uncle. This guy's in 2 scenes in the movie. I'm not really sure his significance. I think he had something to do with the original serial drama on the radio, so they kind of had to shoehorn him in as his uncle. Anyways, so he's doing that. Margot Lane shows up bitching at him because she's like, you're the police chief, you're not going to help my uncle because he's not acting himself and he's speaking Mandarin now because he's mind controlled. So She asks Alec Baldwin to help out. They go outside. And basically, he, in fear of her telepathy, because she can kind of read his thoughts, but vaguely, he basically tells her in this, like, it's like funny, kind of unintentionally funny, but he's like, does his shadow trick. You will leave me alone. What are you talking about? What are you trying to tell me? Why would I leave you alone? You will stop bothering me. But why would I stop bothering you? That doesn't make sense. It's kind of hilarious just because, like, he's so serious, like the shadow effect in the movie. If you see, you know what I'm talking about. But anyways, it doesn't work. We're then fast forward now to the War Department where Ian McKellen works at, and he's working on this bomb, and basically, what's his bucket, Shiwan Khan, whatever, shows up with his Mongoloid henchmen, and they basically kidnap him with the bomb, or not kidnap him, obviously he's under mind control, he's willingly going with him. So he comes with them, and the shadow shows up, starts shooting up the fucking place. It's probably the only scene in the movie where he's really, like, kicking people's asses and just blowing fools away. Does that. He even has this really awful line where he, like, has a guy on the balcony and he throws him to his death. And he's like, next time, you'll get to be on top. It was like some kind of weird sexual joke. I don't know. The whole thing was just, like, so weird. In the next scene, we're shown that Margot Lane is now being mind controlled as well, which is weird because he couldn't mind control her, but this guy, I don't know. Anyways, so she's mind controlled to go kill the shadow. Well, she goes to Alec Baldwin's house and realizes, why would I go to your place if I'm supposed to kill the shadow? Well, duh, because he's the shadow. So they figure that out. She knows he's the shadow. So now he's in the pickle because he can't, get rid of her. After this, a bunch of boring stuff happens. And then basically he goes to Chinatown to meet up with Shiwan Khan one last time before, the final climax towards the end of the movie. But right now, this is just sort of like to set the stage that, like, hey, shit's going down. So he basically confronts him, and Shiwan Khan reintroduces the knife. Yes, the knife. And then the rematch of the century happens, and Shiwan runs away and escapes. So, and it's so stupid, because you think of, like, a badass chase scene with this taxi's about to go down, and me remembering that the toy when I was a kid was badass and had gadgets. No. He simply just drives. Anyways, yes. Meanwhile, back at home, Alec Baldwin has this weird dream where he gets up and starts peeling away at his face. I gotta tell you, I'm a big proponent of practical effects, and this was no different. This shit might give me a nightmare. This was horrifying looking. It was disgusting. It was really cool, but it was disgusting. He was, like, peeling chunks off his face to reveal that he is Shiwan Khan. Really, it was just to show the mind games going on with all the mental magic, voodoo and stuff. Or, not voodoo, that's Louisiana, sorry. And the movie goes on, and he has some kind of encounter with Tim Curry and some kind of water thing, and he shoots him, and he actually shoots the shadow in the arm, proving the shadow really is kind of useless, because he's basically just the Invisible Man, but worse, because you can still see his shadow, so stupid. But anyway, so he gets out of that. And then he discovers that the hidden base, the reason why when he tried to chase after him in the taxi, or lack thereof, and he just disappeared, he didn't disappear. He went into this, like, empty, demolished building lot. But it's not. It's a magic trick that Shiwan Khan is using on the entire city. So the entire city is fooled that this big hotel was demolished years ago, but it isn't. It's still standing. Actually kind of an interesting twist. A lot of plot holes in it, but it was kind of cool. They revealed the hotel. It's pretty badass. The Shadow basically sets up the stage to one last showdown. So he comes in there, guns a-blazing, start fucking blowing fools away, killing motherfuckers, and he gets up there looking cool as hell. The bad guy, Shiwan Khan, instructs Tim Curry that he needs to go down there and whack the Shadow. So he takes his little Mongoloid warriors down there with him. He has an encounter with the Shadow. He does what he always does, Jedi mind trick, Shadow stuff, and just, makes him go crazy and laughs and all that kind of stuff until Tim Curry goes crazy and jumps off the balcony. So, he's dead. Then, Alec Baldwin finally has his showdown with Shiwan Khan, except this time, he throws the knife at him again. So now he has to have another rematch with the knife. It is epic. So much shit's going down with this knife. Okay, that's not true. It's basically just him, like, resisting the knife coming at him. And essentially, he just lets go. So, by letting go, he basically is able to overcome the knife or something. I don't know. Either way, the magic knife just drives right into Shiwan Khan, stabs him. The magic spell is broken, so everyone now in New York City can now see this hotel. Sir Ian McKellen's thing, his mind control wore off. So shit's going down now. Then the injured Shiwan Khan runs off. Alec Baldwin chases after him. If you're thinking there's some kind of fight, there is not. You'll be very disappointed, as I was as a child. I would say the ending really sucked to this movie. And as an adult, it didn't suck. Well, let me just tell you. So he basically chases him down. He's in a hall of mirrors. It's actually visually the coolest part of the movie. It actually looks incredible. But basically he goes all Super Saiyan. His hair's all flowy. And he basically just makes all the mirrors around him break around Shiwan Khan. And yeah, I don't know. You gotta watch the movie. So he does this and then has this piece of glass stick into his forehead. And you think he's dead, but the movie instantly goes off to a mental hospital where this doctor's talking to him, and he basically is trying to mind control him, and it doesn't work. And then he basically explains to him that this big, stitching around him that he has that's healing, they had to surgically take out a piece of his brain to save his life when he was stabbed by the glass. And he's like, oh, well, don't worry, it's part of the brain nobody ever uses. I'm assuming that the idea is that it's his magic side. I don't know. Anyways, it was kind of funny, but it was whatever. So now he's in a mental institution, and that's it. So, movie goes on the very next scene, literally, this is seamless transitions. He's defeated, he's in a mental hospital. Next scene is Alec Baldwin and Margot Lane. He kisses her, and he's like, I'll see you later. And she's like, but how will you know where I'll be? The shadow knows. And then the end. So, totally ends right after that. It just, yeah. So, that's it. That's the shadow. And that is everything. So, now that we've explained the shadow, we can now open up this bad boy right here. The shadow figure right here. And let me tell you, this figure is awesome. So, feels good opening up those old 90s figs, sealed and everything. Like you came home with your parents and they bought you a toy. So here he is. One thing I found interesting about this card is this was totally sealed up. This has never been removed. You just watched me open it. And yet there was a hair stuck inside in the tape. So somehow a hair in the manufacturing process got trapped in here. Someone's hair right there. Should fucking figure out who it is. Be like, I got your hair, bro. My shadow fig. So, let's get him out of the plastic prison. Man, they really seal this guy in there. Jesus. So, here he is. Coming out. So, get him out. Look at that. Cool. So, he has his badass cape, and just like in the movie, he has the red on the inside, black on the out. He has his little arm positions up. He has these eyes. It's hard to see it, really kind of see how his eyes light? So they light up if you actually have light going on. So, anyways. So here he is. And the cool part about this guy, he was called the Lightning Draw Shadow. They called him this, of course, not just because he busts caps and people's asses in this fucking movie. It's because you put the guns in his hands. Alright? Alright, you following? It's a really complicated toy. You put the gun in his hands. Put the gun in his hands. Now, what was funny about this toy, though, is if you notice, if you push all the way on his legs, he's going up. He's shooting above. So if you gotta be I don't know if that's just the way the guns rest in his hands. Anyways, but there he is, Lightning freaking shadow. So, you know, he can also be a referee in your if you're like playing with like football toys or something. You know, touchdown. All kinds of stupid shit. A cool little feature though I liked was that you can put the guns like in the holster. So you just stuff them in there, guns in the holsters. So he can be a referee, and you can actually punch, like uppercut bitches, and have his guns in there. So anyways, that is the shadow right there. So let's go in for a closer look and see his cool little cape. You know, a lot of cool... I like his face on there, although it was weird because his nose is always pretty distinct in the movie anytime they show it, and yet here he has like the scars or whatever. And also, I thought the red was a weird thing for the eyes, because his eyes are like green in the poster, like very distinctly. I get like in the movie they're not green, but it's just like so much green incorporated, and then his eyes you just end up bailing out and going red. But either way, so cool figure, cool little details to him. I mean, for such a simple figure, I thought it was a very well done figure. It was why I mainly bought this figure. I was originally just gonna buy it and bust this thing open on my own and just put it on my shelf. But I had the inspiration to talk about the movie because I've been wanting to watch it again for a while. And, you know, it is what it is. So overall, the fig's pretty cool. Again, let's go at 90 standards here. So with the movie, we're going to give the movie, you know, star system here. Let's give the movie like 2.25 stars. How about that? 2.25 stars. So 2.25 stars for the movie. Had some cool bits in it. It wasn't completely awful. It was kind of below mediocre. There were some things they could have fixed to easily improve the movie. But the soundtrack was phenomenal. I will give it that. The soundtrack was fucking fantastic. Actually, at the end of the movie, there's like a James Bond type theme called Original Sin. That was pretty dope, actually. I was really into that. I don't know if it's available on Apple Music or whatever. But other than that, yeah, the soundtrack was great. The cinematography was actually really cool, though. That's the thing, is there was a lot of really cool images, and the production was great. It really transported you back into the 30s. They did a fucking awesome job with that. And a lot of big name actors in this. But overall, it just dragged a lot. And then the end was so, like, it's kind of like Enter the Dragon when Bruce Lee fights the bad guy with the claw in the mirrors. It's very similar to that, both in the mirrors and in the fact that it was sort of a lame last fight compared to the rest of the movie. That it was this sort of meh. It's iconic, but it's kind of meh. That's what this was like. Only it's not iconic. It was just meh. The imagery was cool. Again, cinematography, great. But everything else was just iffy in some areas. As for the fig, I'm going to give him... You know what? Again, the scale here, you know, this is a 90s toy. I'm going to give him 4 red scarves. Because, let's face facts, he did his action. It was a cool action. I know, because when I was a kid, I loved it. He has a cool spot to put his guns. His guns are pretty detailed. I kind of like those. You know, he has this cool fucking cape. The cape is removable. And then, you know, a lot of these 90s toys had this, like, feature where you put under light and his eyes light up. Just a cool toy. It was very basic. And let's face facts, it was a KB's toy for the most part because this thing was on clearance right from the get-go because it was such a flop. So 3 for $5 bin. I'm telling you, for $1.50 basically, this was definitely worth it. That's all I have for you guys today. But don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment. What did you think of The Shadow? And if you haven't seen it, does it sound as bad as I made it sound? I don't know. Let me know. Hope you enjoyed this video. It's something kind of different. I don't know how this is going to turn out. But please, feedback is always appreciated. Constructive criticism is great, and I love it. So, regardless, check me on Instagram, fig_fanatic. And I'll see you in the aisles. Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin, no. Don't do it. Don't point that gun at me. Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin, no!